The Timeshift.
Hello and welcome to the Timeshift. Tonight I'll be reviewing the latest episode of Doctor Who titled The Giggle. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below, and while you're there, be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell and do all the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to do, because YouTube is an increasingly scary place for small content creators. Support your local small content creator today, it will do them a power of good. Now on to the review itself, and we start off as we often do with these reviews by talking about the story and the writing and that kind of malarkey. I'm going to be honest with you, dear listener, this is about my 6th or 7th attempt to do this review, because to be quite honest with you, I really do not know what to think about it. I have mixed feelings for days, as is the common phrase in modern lingo these days. I truly am kind of befuddled by certain aspects of it, which we'll discuss shortly, but I think that in the interest of fairness, we should talk about the things I did enjoy about this episode, and I have to say that I did enjoy the core story with the Celestial Toymaker. I know they've rebranded him to just being the Toymaker, but to me, he will always be the Celestial Toymaker, and no amount of rebranding is going to change that. I really love the core idea of it. I think that it was a great return of a classic character. I will admit that I'm not 100% keen on the whole very Labour political analogy with all of this, but that's Doctor Who for you. That's pretty much keeping with the long-standing tradition of Doctor Who being kind of clumsy with this kind of stuff, but I will say this, I would have been more inclined to enjoy that kind of stuff had we spent more time with it, but it was just kind of just thrown into the background. Maybe would have got a little bit more on it had certain actors still been around, but that is something that we'll discuss later on. But I liked the idea of it. I just don't feel it really explored that kind of stuff quite as well. The idea that the Celestial Toymaker is warping reality to make every single human being on Earth think that they're right, to the point that they're quite happy to get into fights, murder and kill anybody that disagrees with them. I think that that itself is an interesting idea, but we didn't really get that. I think that it would have been a neat way to bring the Celestial Toymaker into the modern age, to show them as a new threat rather than just being a guy who plays games all the time. We didn't get that, but what we did get was a slight reinvention of the classic character, with having them do tricksy little games and such. For the most part, it feels like he's more on the toy side of things than he's necessarily the game side of things, which some people find kind of weird given the sheer amounts of games in this, but it's kind of hard for me to explain. What I will say is I did enjoy the look of the weird realm that the Celestial Toymaker created. This dark, dingy, nasty little Victorian era. Well, it wouldn't be Victorian era, but you get the idea. This run-down, dingy space where you see these faint motifs of different games and such being referenced in some of the set design, which I really did like. I do admit that I would have liked something a little bit more psychedelic, a little bit more weirder, really playing into the toy and game aspect of it. We do get hints of that with the marionette guy, which was a great little sequence. I did enjoy that, and as well with the room with the little dolls in them, which, you know, that's a well-worn trope within horror, the creepy doll thing. I can't say that it creeped me out, but I think that one of the big problems I had with this episode, and it might just be for me, so I can't really give it a mark against the episode, is the fact that the volume of this episode seemed really rather soft. I had to set everything up to the highest volume that I could do just to hear it, and again, that just might be on my end, but this is the BBC we're talking about, and as far as the volume of their broadcast is concerned, it can vary wildly. So anybody who was watching anything immediately after this, and they just turn their volume all the way up, well, God help them. I will say, though, that even with that said, I can appreciate a lot of more of the weirder and more existential horror elements within it. The Doctor dealing with a villain who could just change the rules of reality just however he wants to, just if whatever he wants to, he just does it. He can change reality on a whim, as we see happen to 2 of the unit guards, because it's been a long time since we saw anyone from unit buy it in quite a creepy and weird way. I will say that in that sequence where we had the Celestial Toymaker dancing to the Spice Girls song, that you'd think there'd be a moment where they realise that no matter how many bullets they fire at this guy, it's just going to create more petals. They could have just stopped and just not been playing into it, but hey, maybe he was using his powers to make them shoot more. I really don't know. I was about to start talking about performances there, but we're not quite there yet. I will admit that I wasn't really much of a fan of how they ended up defeating him in the end. I feel that with a character like the Celestial Toymaker, he needs to be outsmarted, he needs to be tricked, he needs to be manipulated and played on his own terms. But the problem is that the Doctor just kind of beat him in a physical game, which he shouldn't really have been able to, but at the same time he could do, but at the same time he shouldn't do. Like in the classic series, unless I'm mistaken, the way that the first Doctor defeats the Celestial Toymaker is by tricking him into doing something. And pretty much every single story that the Celestial Toymaker has been involved in the books and in the comics, has been a similar kind of thing, with the Doctor outsmarting him. This week, we didn't get that. He didn't outsmart him, he just moved a little bit quicker than him. And that's kind of it. It was wholly unimpressive. And I think that it just kind of set up the tone for the remainder of the episode, I suppose. Like, the first, maybe second act was great, but about midway through, I think almost as soon as we had the Spice Girls song onwards, things just started to fall apart for me. We just started to lose steam gradually, to the point that we end up getting to the bi-generation, or bi-regeneration, I should say. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Something I will point out, and I'm interested to see how certain fans are going to react to it. It's the whole thing about the Master being tricked and turned into a gold tooth. I remember a couple years back when Chris Chibnall made a joke about UNIT not having any funding, and the internet was alight with people bitching, moaning and screaming that he had written off UNIT and he had destroyed UNIT. This classic part of Doctor Who history was gone forever and it was never coming back. Oh, boo, shucks on him, grr. Then next season they came back. I'm wondering if those kind of people are now doing the exact same thing with Russell T Davies and the Master. Are they all now jumping up and down and going boo shucks on him, shaking their fist and cursing and swearing at him? Or are they going to turn around and not do that because it's Russell T Davies and Russell T Davies can't do any fucking wrong? Rant aside, we do, of course, at the end of the episode, we get a reference to the thing with the hand when it was the Master's ring and she picked up the ring out the fire, and this time it was the gold tooth. Reference, I remember Thing. Look, there's Thing, what we did before. Fuck off. Suppose this is, whilst I'm in a bad mood, I suppose we should discuss the. We'll do one more good thing, one more genuine good thing. I did like seeing Mel back again. I liked her involvement in the episode. I do wish that we'd see more of her, though. I do wish that we'd see more of her getting a classic companion back and just effectively having them doing admin work. Bit of a shame, but from some of the previews and promotional images that we've seen, we're going to be seeing her in the next episode anyway, so it's not that much of a loss, you know. It's great to see Bonnie Langford. I do have an affection for her. I think she's a great actor. We don't see enough of her, and to see her back again, not screaming in every single scene that she's in, as was the case in the classic series, great. I really wish we would have seen more of it again. We're going to see more of her later on, but... Oh, and another good thing that I did like was the whole flashback scene. Well, not flashback, but the moment where the Celestial Toymaker was explaining to Donna what had happened to the other people who had travelled with the Doctor after she had left him. Neat sequence of events. No mention of Rory or the other companions, or any of the companions really, from the Jodie Whittaker era. Maybe that's because they all just kind of shuffled off into the shadows and you can't really make a big menacing speech about, oh, here is Ryan and he is just about to go and have a job interview, but he travelled with the Doctor and so he was late. You can't really do anything with that because we're all just kind of fine. It would have been neat though if you had a reference to Yaz and about, oh, Yaz really loved the Doctor and really loved her with all her heart, but the Doctor didn't care what she thought about her. You know, that would have been neat, just to show the Doctor's kind of distant with people. That would have been neat. But instead, we got another reference to the Flux. And it gets referenced so many times now that I don't know if Russell T Davies is intending to do something with that later down the line, or if he's just going to treat this as his new Time War. Something to give the Doctor something gritty and moody to be moody and gritty about. We'll soon find out. Maybe he'll do something with that, maybe he won't, I don't know, but it is at least nice to get some kind of repercussions from that, which we didn't get from the end of the Chibnall era, because the Chibnall era ended almost as soon as that happened, but that's a whole other discussion for all of a time. But with all that said, we have to talk about regeneration. As I mentioned in the previous episode, this is something that had been leaked ahead of time. It's something I saw the leak for because for whatever program I want to watch, I can't avoid spoilers for it. So I managed to see a spoiler for it. And there was speculation that there's some fake spoilers out there, some fake leaks to mix it all up. And a couple of days ago, there was another leak about this episode, which sounded the more rational thing to do. And in the end, we got the initial leak, which is what ended up happening. And whilst this second leak does explain exactly what happened, the fact that there isn't an explanation in this episode as to what the hell just happened really isn't good enough. There's no other words for it. Oh, this has never happened in Time Lord history. Okay, but could we at least speculate as to what that is? Give an explanation as to what's happened? Because we really don't end up getting that. And the absence of that really does undermine Ncuti Gatwa's debut as the Doctor. In fact, I dare say that it may well overshadow his and every successive Doctor after him's time. Because for a lot of people, David Tennant is the definitive Doctor. And the fact that he hasn't died, the fact he hasn't regenerated and now exists, and there's now 2 Doctors, means there are going to be a lot of people out there saying, well, you know, this Gatwa fellow seems alright, but, you know, I'm not sure if he really is the Doctor. He's just a thing that came off the Doctor. My Doctor's enjoying some good time rest, and he'll be back any day for more adventures. And then eventually we'll get to the next Doctor after Ncuti Gatwa, and someone will say about how, oh, that's actually the Valiard or someone, and they'll come up with some strange conspiracy theory to try and bring David Tennant's Doctor back. And every single special episode from now until David Tennant is no longer on this mortal coil, they'll be saying, oh, well, this is the time to bring back David Tennant again. The sheer absence of an explanation as to what happened here really doesn't work for me. I think that it really does undermine what could have been a great moment, a great debut for Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor. I mean, I did enjoy the scene where the Doctor was with Donna Noble's family. I thought that it was cute, but I think that just shrugging off and going, oh, there's 2 Doctors now. There's a Doctor that you know that's had all these adventures, and this Doctor that hasn't had any adventures yet, but has had the adventures yet. Because there's now 2 of them. So what's going on here? The absence of an explanation, I think, is desperately needed. I know that with Doctor Who we can kind of just go, well, not everything needs to be explained, or everything gets retconned or explained later on, but this is something that I think could undermine the future of the programme for a lot of people, because I think it is stealing the thunder of Gatwa. And I'm gonna stop right here, because I'm gonna start going into another area, and I don't want to get into that right now. We'll see how maybe this will be explained in the next episode. Maybe it won't be. I hope that it is. Like, if we get the next episode and we get some kind of explanation, great, but the fact there's now 2 Doctors, I don't know how to feel about that. Maybe we'll just speculate on that in the overview, but for now, let's talk about the performances. And as far as the performances themselves are concerned, I think that it was almost top marks all around. There was something about David Tennant's performance which I just couldn't latch onto. Like, there were certain moments where it did feel on par with the previous episode, but I really don't know what to feel about this one. Maybe there's some kind of emotion there because he knew that his time with Doctor was coming to an end again, but I don't know. There was something that wasn't quite there for me. Catherine Tate as Donna Noble, as I've said in the past, very much take it or leave it. This week they did alright, but I don't think they really had enough time to shine on their own to really do that much. We're just constantly running forward, almost like the bad old days of the Russell T Davies era, where most of the episode was the Doctor running and pointing at things, whilst the dun 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 music playing in the background, and that's very much what it felt like we're getting in this episode, though not quite as literally for me. Neil Patrick Harris, Celestial Toymaker. As is the case with many Doctor Who villains that are brought back from the past, I really liked him when he played it seriously. Like in the case with the Master, when he's dicking around and being goofy and eccentric in the modern run, it makes my stomach turn, but seeing them serious and creepy works. Seeing Neil Patrick Harris as a celestial toymaker being serious and creepy and scheming, that was fantastic. That was great. It's just a shame that we really didn't see that much of it, because he was just flitting from one accent to another for really no good reason. Okay, well, you can say that he's doing it specifically to fuck with the Doctor, but the Doctor knew who he was, so he really didn't need to do it. I really don't know what to make of it. I mean, outside of that, when he's being serious, great. When he's frigging about, not so much. As for the other characters in the episode, they did fine. I can't really commend. I don't know what else to say. The other performances in the episode, I think everyone did their role about as well. I still think the previous episode was the best of this mini-series. So let's get into the overview and say that... Again, even now, I really don't know what to feel about it, because the core stuff with the Celestial Toymaker was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy it. I don't think it really ended in quite the way that I would have liked it to do, but it was fine for what it was. I think that when we started to get closer and closer to the regeneration, that's when things started to fall away ever so slightly, to the point where now it feels like almost like a having your cake and eat it kind of a scenario. I really don't know how else to describe it. Russell T Davies doesn't mean anything bad by this. He really doesn't. And I don't want to speculate on his mindset. And I don't want to put words into his mouth or to recontextualize his actions to confirm any biases that I have against him. I'm just going to say that now so I don't go down a path that I'm later going to regret. I just think that maybe in all the excitement of doing all of this, he might have bitten off a little bit more than he can chew. But this is Russell T Davies, and with Doctor Who, he seems to have plans within plans within plans. So if there's anything here that hasn't been explained, you have to have faith that he'll explain it later on. And if he doesn't, well then, much like the Timeless Child stuff, someone will end up explaining it sooner rather than later, and everyone will hate it. Oh, wow. I would... Real talk now, I'd have been perfectly fine with this episode had they just explained the bi-regeneration thing. I'd have been fine with it. Just say that it was a Celestial Toymaker mishap, some kind of weird energy thing that was causing it, or just do like they said in that leak that I saw a couple of days ago, which just said that, oh, Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor has just been pulled in from the future due to time, space, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff to help here. And that would have been fine. He didn't really regenerate, he was summoned using the regeneration energy. And then David Tennant's Doctor can quietly regenerate off screen. And then we can get straight into the Ncuti Gatwa stuff. That would have been fine. That would have been fine. But we didn't get that. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But anyway, with all that said and done, let us get into Comment Corner. Back once again like a renegade master. We have Big X1 who said... And this is in course reference to the previous episode. I love this one. Worried you wouldn't like it. FYI, it's hard to hear you over the music in the comments part. Thank you for your comment, and as I mentioned in my pinned comment at the start of the YouTube page, yeah, that was just a mistake in editing for me. I just brought in the audio file and I didn't correct the levels for it. My apologies. But thankfully I do reply to all the comments that I get, so there you are. As far as last week's episode, I really did love it. I don't know why Big X1 thought I didn't like it, but I really did love last week's episode. Had we had an episode this week that was on par with that, oh baby, I'd be eating good. But yeah, the absence of an explanation for the bi-regeneration thing, I think, is a major killer for me with this episode. And there's a part of me that genuinely thinks that the only reason why there's this bi-regeneration thing is so that David Tennant can get his own spin-off series down the line. Because we have the Whoniverse now! We all have all that lovely Disney money and we don't know how to spend it, so we're giving Paul McGann his own series. And I suppose they're also going to give David Tennant his own series! So now the Doctor Who has to compete with itself. I can't possibly see this backfiring at all. Anyway, that's a worry for tomorrow. We'll worry about it tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to do a series review of this quite yet. It's still early days. If I do, then you'll see one next Saturday. If not, well then, that's it for us for now, because we have the Christmas special coming in a few weeks' time. I don't know if I'll be recording it on Christmas Day itself. Maybe Boxing Day, a push, but we'll soon see. But anyway, thank you all for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye! Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!